Welcome back. So I've been publishing a series called The Physics of Performance, and it focuses on a deep dive on block periodization, how to put it together, how you can tailor the blocks to your individual needs and the event you're training for. So today, this video is on the endurance and strength block. So endurance. Endurance means different things depending on the time of year and depending on the block that preceded the endurance and strength block that we're going to be thinking through. So for instance, if it's the first block of the year and we're coming out of an off season, we've had a couple weeks kind of getting back into it, our endurance and strength block should focus on frequency, getting back into the routine of training. Likewise, if the endurance and strength block is later in the year, particularly when it follows a VO2 block, our fitness is going to be at quite a high level. We will have been training many months. We probably will have had some low priority races, maybe even some B priority races that we've done and completed, hopefully successfully. In that case, the endurance is going to have more of a work and duration component to it in terms of total volume and the volume of our longest days, the duration of those days. So bear that in mind. When you hear endurance, it needs to be relative to the time of year, your individual needs, as well as the event that you're preparing for. Endurance in an Ironman or an Ultraman sense is very different than the endurance in a Olympic distance sense. Okay, now strength. Similar kind of thing with strength. Strength needs to be relative to our individual needs, but it also needs to be thinking about, this is for an endurance and strength block, which has followed the VO2 block and before the race-specific block. We need to be thinking about putting the components in place for the race-specific workouts. So let's touch a bit on that because strength has many different meanings. So first off, when we hear strength, pretty much always means hills or chop and stuff in terms of if we're thinking about open water swimming. A strength swim would be a choppy swim or a swim with swell. And it would be emphasized even more if it was warm water, we couldn't wear a wetsuit. So let's think about that. So we want to be using hills as well as things like medley swimming, fly swimming, band-only swimming to make ourselves stronger in a sport-specific sense. So in the Endurance Essentials book, John's sections in the specific strength, the race-specific strength bits are really relevant to this time of year. A couple other things. Your event. Does your event require you to be strong going uphill or going flat? Because it's a different type of strength. And it's really what we're thinking about for most everybody. It's a kind of a zone 3 sort of effort. It's strong in a tempo sense rather than strong in a ridiculously high torque or carrying a huge pack sense of the word. So bear that in mind. And what I mean by that is if you're preparing for a flatter race, you need to be thinking about using the strength you build in the hills to improve your performance on the flats. So in a running sense, it means mixing up the terrain. So a good rule of thumb is you're going to alternate between a hilly run and a flatter run for your long run terrain. Or you can do combos. You can do one of my favorite run sessions is hills, then flat. So the hills kind of beat us up a little bit, and then we do some benchmarking on the flat. And it's a great way to see how durable we are. Similarly, with the bike. So we're riding uphill. Normally our cadence naturally drops. Force per stroke is going up. We're building that strength. But ultimately, we need to convert that strength that we're building in the hills to straight ahead power on the flats. And my favorite sets for that are the ones we outlined on the big gear work that's done time trial position on the flats. Power is going to be kind of going up into zone 4, but the heart rate response, because we're going to be using a lower cadence, is going to be kept into zone 3. And when you're fit In an endurance sense, you can roll up quite a bit of that kind of specific strength training, and it can be really valuable for a medium distance and a long distance time trial athlete. So I hope that helps. You keep it in mind when you're building up your program for your strength and endurance block. Thanks for listening.